Awesome. Welcome to the Dangerzone. I'm here with Jacob, my buddy from Denmark. We met on the Warrior Week that Denmark graciously put on for us. They invited some of the American wounded soldiers over to hang out with some of the Denmark wounded. And so Jacob and I are going to sit down and talk about that and share some of Jacob's story. So welcome to the Dangerzone, Jacob.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
So, let's dive right into it. You were sort of one of the, it was your idea, I guess, and you're the one that sort of pushed this Warrior Week to happen. Can you explain me, what you were thinking in that, and how the idea came about, and what the plan is, and how you felt it was executed?
Yeah. Well, I think that American soldiers and Danish soldiers, they are pretty much the same. We have been fighting against the same enemy. We have been fighting in the same battlefield. So we are pretty much in the same situation, especially when we get wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And in America, you are very good in honor your veterans. In Denmark, we just started knowing why it's important to honor veterans and accepting that it is because of those veterans who have been fighting the enemy outside borders, we can live in our free world with our free values. So I think it's very important to honor that. And I've been in America a couple of times and saw how we did that. And we also participated in the Warrior Week in Virginia Beach and got this feeling. And then I thought, nobody's inviting the Americans out. We want to do that because we are brothers in arms.
Yeah.
So that's the idea about Warrior Week Denmark, and that's why I invited American veterans to do something in Denmark with Danish veterans, also to continue like brothers in arms, just as veterans.
Yeah. And as soon as I heard about this trip, when they kind of sent out the feelers to everybody and said, announced that it was going on, I was immediately excited. Like, I was really stoked. And it's because I'd worked with some Danish guys in Afghanistan. I met them at Price, Fob Price, and in the Helmand. And I knew we had fought in the same areas, not necessarily on the same patrols and everything like that, but we had, literally shed blood in the same ground. And so it was very important to me. I felt a connection with the Danish that I met at Fob Price, and I felt kindred, spirits with them, even beyond the fact that we were brothers in arms and just what you described, in the war together with. I felt like something, a step above, and I come, apparently from, my genetics and everything. Apparently I have Danish in my background, so I'm not sure how much that plays into it, but it was really. I was glad that you came up with that idea, because it meant a lot to me, to get the opportunity to reconnect with some of the other guys, because I see guys that I served with in Afghanistan all the time, and I have readily access to them and everything, but I think you hit the nail on the head. It's very important for us to continue to get together and learn from each other, really, because we come at things from such a different perspective, and different background experiences when you're coming from across the globe. And I felt even more desire to go when I started to look into it, right? I wanted to understand Denmark better before I went. I guess being a recon guy, I like to do my homework and know where, that was sort of my mission. My mission is to go and make the best of this time in connecting with you guys and girls, and trying to increase my knowledge base of Denmark. And so I did a lot of studying, and in that I was watching some documentaries on YouTube of you guys in Helmand, Afghanistan, and I was blown away at your fighting spirit and your dedication to being partners with us in this war, even though it definitely isn't pretty. You know, it's a very tough situation. You know, and there's not this golden solution to fix it. You know, and so I gained even, and this is before I even arrived at Denmark, I gained such a deeper appreciation for just the relationship Denmark has with America, and it really touched me to see the fighting spirit side of things and how, you know, they shared that same thing, because not every nation, I think, approaches war like that and has that sort of dedication to win the fight no matter what. And it's so then that led me to, you know, so I was kind of like built up, and so you can tell I did already the initial excitement, but then I was really just felt this pull that I was so ready to meet you guys. And so it was, again, I can't thank you enough for like thinking to do this, because it was really awesome.
You're more than welcome, and it is us to say thank you. And it's all about returning the favor for all that you guys have done for us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all this started with the 9/11 attack, and when those two airplanes hit the towers up in New York, I saw it on the television. Whole Denmark saw it on television, and Denmark cried with you guys. I remember that I was a very young soldier at that time, and all of us were accommodated out on the bases on guard duty, preparing to go to war immediately. We didn't even wait for America to ask, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We were ready and waited for them to ask, and they asked, and the government immediately said yes, and then we went to war with you guys. So we were there from the very start off.
And I noticed in this documentary, I was seeing that we actually worked in a lot of the same areas. And as we even, you know, as we get to know each other even more, you know, as, you know, you've now come to another trip to America, which that's why we're actually seeing each other again here in Tampa, as we're here for the adaptive sports camp, which I think is awesome that we're still like continuing this, you know, us doing this together, this experience that it is being, you know, sick, ill, and wounded veterans, like getting together, sharing success, and like what's working for you, what's working for me, how are we doing in the U.S., how are you guys doing it there, and I like to see that continuing. I think it's really great, and you know, and now we get a chance to sit down and talk and, you know, share that with other people. But even while we were here and just hanging out more, we found out that we were in Afghanistan in the same time and like in the same areas.
Yeah.
And you know, a school you guys built, I later used as like a base, you know. And
yeah, the year before you used it as base, I was protecting the building up at that school with my tank.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny that you a year later use the same school as a base.
Yeah.
But it is, as I started saying, we share the same field of battle.
Yeah. And so, if you want to, do you want to share sort of your story of how you were wounded and what happened?
Yeah. Well, I started in the army in 2000 and became a tank commander pretty fast. And we went to Kosovo with my tank crew, and we went to Iraq in 2004, Afghanistan 2006, and again Afghanistan 2007 to 8, and then again in 2011 to 12.
Wow.
I had the same tank crew for 12 years.
Wow.
And
You had the same tank.
That's pretty unique.
Yeah.
So they were like my family. They are my family still. But on this mission, it ended up being my last mission. We went to Afghanistan in August 2011, and we are we had to stay there for 6 months. So we were planned to go back to Denmark in the 3rd of February 2012, and the 5th January 2012 I got wounded first time. We went out there with my tank and had to do some protection to the Afghan army, and then I saw a hotspot with my thermic sight. I couldn't see what it was. It was in a twin tree, and right there in the V, I saw this hotspot, and with the optic equipment on the tank, I couldn't see what it was. So I had to stand up and look outside the tank with my monogoggle, and zoomed in. It has a 65 zoom, and when I got the focus on this hotspot, I could see, hey, that's a rifle. And the same second I saw the rifle, he took a shot on me. Before I stood up and took a look with my monogoggle, I had put the distance inside the laser system in the tank.
Right. So it was ready to go.
Was ready to go. But I mean, the bullet will go like 800 meters per second, and I had 520 meters to this sniper. So my brain only, I didn't have time enough to jump inside the tank or to move away. So I took the bullet right in my arm, and then I jumped down on my tank seat, and the main gun was ready. I gave the gunner a shooting command. He said ready. He couldn't see the sniper, and I looked again, and I either couldn't see the sniper. So I thought there's only one place he could have went, and that was down in the ditch. So I wouldn't let him go away.
Yeah.
So I gave the gunner a new shooting command. I said coax the machine gun 500 meters, work 1 TS back and forward in the ditch, shoot. And then we used about 3,000 7.62 millimeters from the coax, and then the sniper, he went out of the ditch, and then we went on the main gun, and I said shift to main gun, heat 500, sniper, shoot, and we took him out.
Awesome.
And he had a British SA-80 rifle he had stolen from a dead British soldier. So I was happy that we took him out.
Yeah.
So then I went, I called the new another tank up in position. Went down to the medics, and they called for a helicopter. And I mean, I didn't want to go back to the base, but I had to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine that they can I mean, it was just a gun wound. It didn't hit my bone.
Yeah.
It was only I think you call it a flesh wound. Went in and out. So, but yeah, I went back to the base, and yeah, they did some surgery. And actually, they want to send me back to Denmark to take a break, but I only had like 4 weeks left in Afghanistan. So, and my tank crew, they waited out there for me, and they're my family. So I wouldn't go back to Denmark.
Yeah, you've been with them for years.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go back to them. So and at the field hospital, I met this American General Major Tulan. He was the chief of the Marines down there, and I talked with him. He was a funny guy. When he heard the story, he said, "You Danes are crazy. We need the damn Vikings to win this war. I'm gonna give you a coin." And I didn't know about this coin system that you're using.
Yeah.
We don't have that in Denmark. So, and I didn't know he was a general because he didn't have his what's it called?
The rank?
Yeah, the rank.
The
He didn't
rank
wear.
insignia.
Yeah, he didn't have that, and he didn't walk around in his uniform. So I thought he was some kind of an old guy hired to talk with the wounded soldiers.
Yeah.
So I told him, "Oh, keep your money to yourself. Shut the fuck up." And then he went back with this coin in his hand, and he had his uniform. And he, "Oh, he's a 2-star general." and he gave me this coin and said, "Thank you for your service." And then after that, I escaped from the hospital. It was in the Camp Leverneck or Camp Bastion. I don't know if it was in Bastion or Leverneck, but somewhere around there. And one of my old friends, he helped me with. He picked me up with a vehicle, drove me to an English helicopter that was going it was going pretty close out where my tank was. So they dropped me out in the middle of the desert in the night. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh wow!
And I thought and this was a stupid thought because I thought I'm going to surprise them. I said, "Hey, I'm back again." So I came walking there with my rifle in the middle of the night, and of course they did guard duty. So my tank crew, they took a warning shot on me with the carabine rifle, not with the main gun.
Yeah.
So I said, Jesus, they're going to shoot me. So I had to use my night vision goggle to blink with the infrared light, because the enemy don't have that. So they could see it was a friend coming, and then I had to give them a soda water and say, "Good, you're doing guard duty." So, but then I went back to the tank, and that was the 5th of January. Then we did some more days out there with some good fights. We did some pretty good work. Went back to the camp, to Camp Price, and 3 weeks passed, and the new platoon command, the platoon leader and 2 other guys, they arrived. They were preparing to taking over for us, and we were preparing going back to Denmark. And then we got another what's it called, assignment.
Yeah.
And it was a stupid assignment. The new platoon leader, he wanted to see the area we have been in, but I mean Denmark was starting to pulling out of Afghanistan, so we had turned over the area to the British people, to the British soldier. So it was no longer a Danish AOR. So it didn't make any point. But the 2 platoon leaders decided to go out there, and I remember that I said, "Don't jinx it. We had so much war luck. Don't do it. Don't go on safari in the desert." But we did it, and I've been outshipped 5 times, and I've been through a lot of stuff, a lot of war, and I never had this bad feeling before. I could feel something will go wrong.
Yeah.
Somebody just told me, "Don't do it," and I remember I called my wife, and that was stupid. I told her, "I have this bad feeling this time we're gonna go out there one more time," and that was pretty stupid because she was nervous. And I told my tank crew, "Now I'm packing all my what's it called, all my stuff, all my things, so you don't have to do that or worry about that. Here's my farewell letters to the family.
Oh wow!
So you don't have to think about anything when we hit a mine, and I will break my back or whatever will happen." So and they laughed, and then we went out, and the plan was to go out to the green zone, to 2 small forward operation base called Clifton, and I don't remember the other name. I think it was called Rahim. And the new platoon leader was supposed to see these 2 bases. When we started our trip out there, we were told to hold back because the British soldier, they were in a battle out there, and because Denmark had turned over the area, and we were not supposed to be there, we couldn't participate in this battle. That's just politics. So we were told to stay back. I had this thought, hey, let's go out there now. Now we have a legal purpose. What's it called?
Yeah. Legal reason, yeah.
Yeah, to go out there, but no, that's just politics. So we had to wait until the battle was over, and then they called us, now we can come. And then we went out there, and on our way out there, the platoon leader called on my radio and said, free, here's 5. When we arrive, I want you to go in position 800 meters north the observation point Goldeneye to look on our trail, so we can go back the same trail again. And I said, copy that. And I thought it was a stupid idea, because there has just been a battle in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got near to the area, he called up again and said, free here is 5. Where my tank is, I want you to go in position. And I looked down on my GPS and saw it was 2,800 meters north from the position, and I was supposed to be 800 meters. So I said, confirm 2,800 meter north and not 800. And he said yes. And I asked for a tank more, because it's pretty far away from everything alone, and there's just been a battle out in that area.
Yeah.
So I asked for support, and I was denied. Okay. Then we went in position. When we went in position, I could hear something was wrong with my, is it called a track on the tank?
Yeah.
Yeah. And normally I would ask my loader to go down and have a check. And I had this really bad feeling, and I thought that 3 to 4 o'clock from the tank, about 250 meters, I saw 2 guys crawling between a little green spot and the compound. But it was only something that I thought I saw. I couldn't actually see it.
Yeah.
And me and my tank crew, we stood there and looked, and they said, "Oh, Jacob, you're paranoid." Okay. But I didn't like to ask my family member to go down on ground. I did it myself.
Yeah.
Because if something was supposed to happen, I would never could look myself in my eyes if it happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually is stupid, because I am the commander of the tank. So I should have sent him down, but I didn't do it. I did it myself, and I went down on the ground. Could see that we were close to lose our track. Is it called track?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went up again, put my rifle on the tank, took my 9mm Neuhausen pistol, put it inside my magazine bag on my fragmency vest. I had my helmet on, and I took my the big hammer. Told my tank crew I'm gonna go down and knock the track on again. So I did that, and when I was knocking with my hammer, I don't know if I had the feeling that somebody was looking on me, or if I just saw these guys were looking on me. But something made me stood up and look over my left shoulder, and I saw these 2 guys on 250 meters, 4 o'clock, kneeling, and one of them with a RPG, the other with a rifle, and he fired the RPG on me. I shouted up, "RPG!" So my tank crew, they were ready, and I tried to jump. At the same time I was shouting, and the RPG hit the tank. It nearly hit me. I had burning marks on my fragmency vest in the back, and I was thrown away 10 to 20 meters. I don't know how. Pretty far I was thrown away, and I passed out for everything from a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes. I don't know. And when I woke up again, I felt like I was in a what's it called? I could all the sounds were they were strange, and I felt like I could hear some echo.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I set up, and when I set up, I got shot in my shoulder by the sniper. He had an Russian Dragunov sniper rifle, 7.62.
Jeez, that's not a small round.
No, and it's an ideal distance, 250 meters.
Mm-hmm.
And I only had this stupid 9mm pistol, Neuhausen. Actually, it's from the Second World War, with 8 bullets in the magazine, single stock. So I didn't have a chance with my pistol to hit him. But I got shot in my right shoulder, only a couple of centimeters higher than the other hole I got 3 weeks earlier. So I tried to crawl beneath the tank. I got a couple of shots right in front of my nose, and I couldn't go under the tank because the tank was a little bit, it was too low in the sand. So I throw myself in the track, and the Panzer plates, they gave me some protection, and I was holding in the wheel that are throwing the tracks around. And I sat in there, and the sniper, he kept shooting on me. He tried to hit my legs, and I shouted up to my tank crew, "I'm okay. We're hit by an RPG. Don't come out. There's a sniper on 250 meters, 4 o'clock. Do not start the engine." And then they misunderstood me and started the engine. And I was sitting in there in the track, holding this track wheel. And if they start driving, I will be crushed by 70 tons of Panzer.
Wow.
So I had to go outside again. And they couldn't hear me because of this big engine.
Yeah.
V10 engine with 1500 horsepower. It's a German Leopard 2 tank. So, and the sniper, he kept shooting on me. He hit me in my helmet, and that really hurt. It didn't went through the helmet, but I was thrown into the side of the tank and the Panzer, and got shot in my fragmency vest. I got 11 times. He only stretched me with his bullet, and I tried to throw sand up so he couldn't. I took this desert, this very fine desert dirt, threw it up in the air so he couldn't see me. I crawled up in the front. I was crawling on the ground up to where the driver's position is, and through his periscope I lifted myself a little bit up and did the signal with the hand, crossing my
neck.
Crossing my neck to show him that turn off the engine.
Yeah.
And actually he didn't see me, but doing our debriefing, he told me that in the same second I did that, he was turning around and looked at the gunner and said, "Where the hell is Jacob?" And the gunner said, "I don't know where he is." And then they turned off the engine. And when I was laying down on the ground and doing the signal, I got shot through my thigh. I got a pulsating bleeding. Just now, the blood just...
An arterial bleed, yeah.
An arterial bleeding, yeah. And all my first aid is inside the tank, because we have always been training. We never go on the ground. So when we get hurt, it's because we hit a mine. So that's why all our first aid kit, it will be inside the tank with strips, so it won't through around the tank when we hit a mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have anything to stop the bleeding. So they stopped the tank engine, and I got eyes contact with my tank loader. He looked through some small holes, and I could hear the gunner. He was shouting, "Who is shooting?" The sniper, he kept shooting on me. Every 3 to 4 seconds, he took a bullet on me, and nearly hit me. I was crawling around, so I kept it moving. And the loader, he shouted to the gunner, "It's Jacob. He's been shot and he's bleeding a lot." And I shouted up to the loader, "Now you're gonna listen to me. Take the function. The tank. The tank can be in 3 level. It can be where it is in lowest level, middle level, and high level." And I told them, go to the middle level, pop all the smokes, take the main gun to 3 to 4 o'clock, start shooting with the coax on 500 meters. No matter what, just start shooting.
Great call.
I needed them to do some kind of fire.
Mm-hmm.
And they took out the turret, the main gun out to 3 o'clock. Pop one smoke. We have 16. I wanted them to pop them all. only popped one, and they didn't start shooting. And I kept shouting, "Start shooting! Start shooting!" And nothing happened. I couldn't get contact with them. And then I thought, in a few seconds I will bleed out. So I took my pistol, tried to do some artillery shooting with the pistol. Maybe the bullet will nearly go out there, or frighten the sniper. Maybe it will give me a few seconds to react. When I fired those 8 bullets, I threw it up on the tank and jumped on the RPG jitter on the side of the tank. And just a second.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
Then I jumped on the RPG jitter on the side of the tank and tried to crawl up. And I was close to crawl up where the coax is. It is on the left side of the main gun. And just before I did that, I thought, man, maybe they start shooting when I'm there.
Yeah.
So
in front of the coax.
Yeah, exactly. So I went a little down again and went underneath the main gun, crawling on the RPG jitter. And then I got shot 2 times in the calf, and that hurt a lot. Of all those shots, being shot in the, I think it's called calf, this muscle.
The calf muscle.
The calf muscle. Man, that hurt. And then I went up on the tank, kept crawling up. It's like 3.5 meters up. And I just had this feeling, the sniper may not hit me in my head. If he is not hitting me in my head, I will survive.
Yeah.
So I jumped down in the tank with the hit first. I don't know how I could do that, but I turned around somehow when I got down. There's no space inside the tank. It's pretty small. And when I went in there in the tank, I saw on my tank loader, he didn't think too much. He was a little bit stressed.
Yeah.
And my tank gunner, he was also stressed. And the tank driver, he was shouting, "What is happening? What is happening?" And tried to talk on the radio with the rest of the platoon. So immediately I shouted over to the tank loader, "Load with canister." We are driving around with an heat, high explosive ammunition. These 2 Taliban guys, they were laying pretty close to a compound where women and children, they ran in. And if we hit just a little too much to the right, we will explode that compound.
Yeah.
So that's why I shouted, "Reload with canister." So the canister will not go through the compound, and it is on ideal distance to the Taliban on 250 meters. It goes up to 500 meters. And then I took my helmet, my tank helmet, with a radio so I can talk with the crew, but also the platoon. I said on the radio to the platoon that 3 is my call number is 3. 3 is in contact, 2,800 meters north, 500 meters east, wait out. And then I thought they would come. They didn't. Then I put the function chooser up in the highest level. So the tank is in highest. Yeah, everything works on the tank. I took my the commander's main sight. I put it on the Taliban. Then I can push a button so the main gun will follow my sight. And gave my gunner a shooting command. I said, "Canister 800 meters, Taliban shoot." And he said, "Got it, shoot is coming." And then the loader, he shouted, no, there's a heat inside, there's a heat inside. So he put the wrong ammunition in. And then I said, correction. And I thought it's not possible for us to take the heat out and then the canister, then the Taliban will change position and take a shot on us again with the RPG. So I said, heat, 500 meter, 1 TS down, shoot. the distance can only go to 400, and we have the standard 500, and we didn't have time to do anything but just shoot. And I didn't want to hit the compound, so I said 1 TS down, so the shot will go low, and maybe the pressure from the explosion would take the Taliban out or slow them down. So I said that, and then I said reload with canister 800. So we took the shot with the heat and the pressure from the explosion. It didn't take them out, but they fall on the ground, and they were slowed down. And then we reloaded with the canister 800, and we took the shot and we hit them. And I wasn't completely sure that they died, so I said hit, shoot again. So we took another shot on them, and they died. And then I was a little bit angry, so I took the main gun myself, and also took a couple of rounds with the main gun, and they were dead. And between the reloading with the main guns, my gunner, he turned around and said, "Man, you're bleeding, Jacob," and he tried to put some bandage on, and I had this feeling I'm not gonna survive. The pulsating bleeding was not anymore pulsating, was pretty not it didn't bleed anymore, and I felt very tired. I had trouble by keeping myself awake, and also being concentrated. It was not easy. So I took his head and pushed it inside his optic sight. I said, "Focus on the enemy." Yeah, and then we took them out. Then I called on the radio to the rest of the platoon. I remember the rest of the platoon, they talked about to make a a convoy out to me. I thought, how stupid are they? They're only 3 vehicles. Just come out, man. They never came. And so I said silence on the radio, and then they shut up, everybody. Said 3 have been in contact, 2,800 meters north, 500 meters east of Golden Eye. We have been engaged by a sniper and RPG shooter. We took a hit in front of the driving wheel on the track. We are okay. We are in highest level. The tank can drive. Gunner okay. Loader okay. Driver okay. Myself was on ground when we got hit, and I'm hit by RPG and bullets. Badly bleeding from my right shoulder, left thigh, and left calf. Number 4, get a helicopter. Medic, be ready to take care of me. I will shift to the base myself. Tank number 2, come up on position with right and left here. In this area you have to watch. And say ready, everybody on the radio. And they all, when they all had said they're ready, then I gave the command to my gunner, and said, "You have to command. Go back to the base now." And then the driver, he just took it on the back camera, and full speed backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And the gunner put the turret into the. He can put it in a main position, so it won't go to the sides anymore. It will be totally locked. The whole turret. And then he turned around and started putting. Is it called a tourniquet?
Yeah.
And bandage, and the loader, he just took his finger and pushed in my shoulder. He just pushed the finger together and a wound in the shoulder, and it didn't hurt. Actually, I was so tired I couldn't feel anything. And then adrenaline is a funny thing, because after we had like 3 kilometers back to the base, and after 2 kilometers I got this thought: hey, I forgot my hammer on the ground. So I was bleeding out and thinking about my hammer, and called up to tank number 2 and said, "Hey, 2 has 3, I forgot my hammer in position. Would you please go up and get my hammer?" I just had this thought: I don't want a Taliban to run through the desert or green zone with my hammer as a trophy.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to get it and say, "Fuck the hammer." And then we lost our track. It had been damaged by the RPG. so we couldn't go further. I had to call up for the next tank, the platoon leader tank, and he came, and I actually myself crawled out of the tank up on the turret and crawled over to his tank, and the new platoon leader was loaded on his tank. He would go up so I could go down inside the tank, and I said, no, I'm not going to go down there because you're never going to get me up again. I'm going to pass out pretty soon. So I just lay there between the commander and the loader, and they fall backward back to the camp, and they continue with stop all the bleedings. When we arrived to the camp, I tried to crawl down myself, but then I actually didn't pass out, but I couldn't move, and I couldn't see. I could hear everything, and I could taste. And they put me down on the ground, and they started CPR on me, and I remember they did that, and I remember it was like I felt like it was bad. I didn't want them to push in my chest and blow air in my mouth. I felt like I was drowning, but I couldn't say anything. I couldn't see, but I could hear. And also remember the helicopter was a Black Hawk, Americans again. They came to help.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that I was lifted inside the helicopter, and some part of the helicopter I remember, and then I passed out and woke up in the hospital. And actually, I wasn't dead on that time. Just had between a half to a liter blood back in my body, and they couldn't feel my pulse because it was so weak. So I got 5 or 6 portion of blood.
Mm-hmm.
Got surgery, and I woke up. And when I woke up, I remember I woke up, and I had a body. One of my friends, he sat on my right side, and he was talking to me. And then I had this. I mean, it was only like 2 minutes after I woke up. Then I had this very bad feeling in my leg. It was warm, very warm. Felt wet, and I wanted him to look, but I waited till he was done talking. I didn't want to interrupt, so I said, "Hey, Chris, can you please look? Something's wrong with the leg." And he then he took a look. I couldn't move. I felt like I was paralyzed. And then he looked, and then he ran out, shouted for the doctors and the nurse. And I remember this very calm doctor. He came, and he was like in panic. And then I could turn my head and see. I couldn't see the leg, but I could see on the floor, and was just like a waterfall with blood, just running out of the leg. So my artery, they have missed that it was shot over, and the body is a beautiful thing. It's trying to save itself.
Yeah.
So the artery was like fold together up here on the top of the leg.
Wow.
And then after surgery and also all this adrenaline was out of the body, it just did like this. So when it folded out again, the artery, all the blood just immediately ran out. And I remember, the last thing I remember was the doctor. He took my bed. I remember like he was pulling my bed out, and I felt like I was falling down in my pillow. I was down, but I felt like I'd fall through my pillow, and then I died, and I was dead for 3 minutes and 11 seconds before they brought me back to life again. And I woke up in Denmark again, and I had trouble by speaking. I had trouble with remembering, balance, and I was like a victim.
Yeah.
I remember my wife was there. My wife, I get a little bit sad when I'm thinking about her, because it was just, I love my wife, but it was so hard to see her sad because of me, and I couldn't say anything to her, and she sang a song in my ear. And we had an agreement when I left Denmark. When I come home, she will sing a Swedish song from a Swedish singer. It's called "Welcome Home," just on Swedish, and she sang this song very quiet, and I just cried.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. Well, I was on the hospital. I was all my organs, they didn't work for 14 days. They struggling keeping me alive, and yeah, I had to stay on hospital for 6 months, and then I went out on something called the patient hotel. It's right next to the hospital. You can go there when you are well enough to go on the toilet yourself. And
Yeah.
I went over there for 6 months further. I did a lot of training, especially with my brain. A little part in the front of the brain was dead because of all this, because I bleeded out.
Mm-hmm.
Especially neurology training took a long time. So yeah, but I'm okay today. I'm running this organization for Danish Wounded Warriors. I had this feeling, you are a battle soldier, and you get wounded. You wake up, and you're still standing there on the perron. The train have went off with all your friends, and you stand there all alone.
Yeah.
And you're not good enough anymore to go to war, and you're not a part of the team anymore, and that just hurts. So then I started this organization for Wounded Warriors to, because I thought maybe they have the same feeling, and yeah, I needed a new crew. So all the other Wounded Warriors, they are my new crew now,
Yeah.
and we are doing all this together. So that's what I'm doing today. That's my story.
Yeah.
It's a bad story, but it is my story.
It's not a bad story. It's an amazing story. On so many levels, just a show of like who you are and what you're capable of and what humans are capable of.
Yeah.
When everything's against us and how we can come through. And it's really touching. There's so many aspects of your story that are similar to when I was wounded. The thought process. I'm not saying like, I'm not comparing any wounds, because I don't even get into that game of, comparing who has it worse and this and that. But
no, it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about getting wounded, and you're not capable anymore to go to war with your war brothers.
But I when I was evac'd back to Bastion, like we're getting evac'd back to the same places too, and that's like, so when you're telling the story, I'm thinking of like my process, and the feeling of just not wanting to leave. I tried to fight it. I tried to shut down my own evacuation, and then lying about my symptoms so I could go back to my team. That's all we want to do. We don't. You had been with your team for, 12 years, right?
Yeah.
And of course you wanted to be back with them. It's
Yeah.
such a human,
I've been more with them than my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say even beyond a human, that's like, I would say that's it shows how exceptional we are as warriors, and that we're so dedicated to the mission that we'll do whatever it takes to stay in it, even when we really shouldn't.
Yeah.
Ultimately we should be done.
Yeah.
And but it's just who we are. And what's great is you were compelled once you get back, like the feeling like your team's still out there. Most of the guys I know from that were on my team, they're all still in. They're still going on deployments.
Yeah.
And I'm here.
Yeah.
Like
that hurts.
And yeah, it hurts. And because you still want to be a part of that mission. You still want to be a part of your team.
Yeah.
And that's what's so important about us meeting, and sharing these things, so we don't feel alone.
Yeah.
And we realize we aren't.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been through the same things, emotionally, mindset.
Yeah.
And we're not going to give up. We're not going to give up on each other. And and our teammates obviously aren't giving up on us. And I think it's really cool that you decided to do something about it. And I would say that's what I challenge veterans to do is, like, if you find yourself in a bad situation, find something to do, to that one little step forward that can, like, make your situation better, and keep moving forward in life. And I think that's what you did, and it's a great example. And I really feel honored that you chose to, like, sit down and share your story with me. I've heard parts of it before, but wow. What a phenomenal story. I don't think I've heard of something.
I'm happy to tell you that story, because I know that you know exactly what I'm talking about, and exactly all the feelings that you get when you get wounded. Not all the thoughts about your family, and you know what it's about. And that's why I want to tell you my story.
And I feel like a whole nother podcast we could do in the future, because I would like to do more with you, because I plan on traveling to Denmark, and is talking about the family piece, because that's what came out to me. And I feel like that's a whole nother podcast in of itself, of what your family is going through at home, what your thought, how we're thinking of them, while we're there, or just sort of that dynamic. But
they're a big part of it. When my wife, she was told that I was wounded, my wife is a police officer, and she was working, and somebody called on her cell phone. She could see a private number, and she remembered that 3 weeks earlier, when they called and told her that I was shot in the arm, it was a private number. So she thought this time, hey, maybe something has happened with Jacob, because a private number have called me again.
Yeah.
It wasn't them. It could be somebody who would like to sell her something, but it wasn't the army. But she kept that phone number to the contact officer and called him and said, sorry if I'm paranoid, but somebody called me, and I'm afraid that you have called me, and has something happened with Jacob. And he said, I haven't called you, but I won't lie to you. Somebody is on their way out to you now, because it's serious this time. And I'm gonna tell you in the phone now what have happened. And Jacob, he is doing surgery right now. We don't know if he will survive. He's been shot several times. And then she just started. Her world just broke down. Started crying and had to deal with this alone. When hours before somebody went out, they would wait to inform her to see if I survived or didn't survive. Her boss lost his son in Afghanistan in 2008, and she ran down to him, and he knew exactly what to do, who to contact, how to tell the family, and what to do. So he helped her doing all this thing. But sometimes I think that she got, don't know if it's PTSD, because it is a traumatic thing to somebody telling you that your husband or son, wife are dead. Maybe they will die, or they will never come back as they were before.
Yeah.
And something broke down in her head and has never been repaired. And that's why it's so important to bring the family into this also, and remember them, and also say thank you for a service to them.
Oh, hugely. Yeah. It's I've discussed this before, but I feel like in a lot of ways they have it harder on their end, being at home, never knowing what's happening, the lack of communication, whereas we're fully in it. You're so in it that you're still operating your tank after getting shot a bunch of times, and that's how dedicated and, like, present we are in that. And yet to the family members, it's a big unknown. You know what you're getting into. You knew exactly what you handled that so well. The way you were able to give the commands, the way you're able to think through that process and handle it. And you know, that speaks a lot to, you know, your dedication to your training. Obviously, like, you knew what you were doing, but and so it's just, I would say that's the comparison, is like, we know so much about our job because we train so hard to be the best that we're in it fully. And so we don't have necessarily this unknown, you know?
Yeah.
And for the families, that's what it is. It's this constant, when is that call going to come? That's constantly in the back of their mind, you know? Yeah. And I would argue that mentally is more difficult. And yes, we have our mental difficulties, you know, I would say after the fact, you know, with the dealing with the processing, you know, and feeling being alone and stuff like that. But I would say they have suffered a trauma over a chronic period of time. The length of your deployment away from them is like a 9-month trauma of stress on their brain that they're, you know, trying to deal with this absence. And some people handle it better than others, you know. And you know, but it's nobody's, you know, necessarily fault, and that's just who we are as humans. We're all different, you know. But yeah, I would like to see more support for the families too, because and I know you guys you're working on getting the wounded guys more support in Denmark, and I think a big part of that is also bringing the families in, like you already mentioned. Yeah. So, but dude, thanks for joining me. And before I let you go, there's a from the Poetic Edda, there's this proverb that I pulled and applied to my life, which is, if you have friends you want to keep, you should visit them often and exchange gifts. And I think we do that in meeting up with each other and sharing our stories, right?
Yeah.
And our successes. And, hey, I got this brain injury, you have this brain injury. Hey, what's been working for you? This has been working for me. That's a gift.
Yeah.
When the gift of life, like the ability to enjoy and improve your life, that's a huge, I mean, that's better than any amount of gold you could give me or anything else. So I like to point that out, and the fact that it's the importance of us veterans getting together, us wounded guys, and having these meetings, and especially across the globe internationally, because we were all in it together.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason we should handle it separately after the fact, you know? And so I just like to point that out, but I would actually like to present you with the gift as well. So.
Oh no, Daniel! Don't do that. That's too much.
Well, I'm not giving you mine.
Oh, good.
This is so people that are familiar with me know that I wear a fire survival fire starter around my neck, and it's a Thor's hammer and Mjolnir. And for you, I thought the dragon was more appropriate to your story, thinking of all those hits you took, and you kept going. You kept going, you kept fighting, and it's almost like you have dragon armor. The way you're able to survive something like that. You're one tough guy. And so that's in my mind what this that's why I picked the dragon to give to you. And the other thing is, it's a reminder to us to carry our fire, our inner fire, with us. That same fire that helped you through the, you know, drive through that situation, and then continue to push past your injuries and not give in to the feelings of loneliness and depression and stuff like that. We carry our fire with us, and we got to keep that fire strong, and we got to keep it strong in each other. And so that's what the fire starter aspect of it represents. And I just believe every man should carry around the ability to start a fire wherever he goes. But that's sort of the meaning behind it, and I want you to have this.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel so lucky that I met you. I do.
Yeah.
I'm speechless right now. Thanks.
Yeah. And thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in Denmark when I come and see you. All right, have a safe travel home.
Thank you, Daniel.
All right, we'll end it.
Man.
Thanks for joining us on the Dangerzone podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you subscribe to the podcast, you can look forward to more episodes with the Danish military and veterans in the future. As we approach Veterans Day, please don't forget to remember the men and women who have served this country. And to me, that includes our partners that stood beside us in combat. And as always, if you are listening to this on SoundCloud or iTunes, make sure you follow or subscribe so you won't miss the next episode. If you want to watch the Dangerzone, you can find the videos of the podcast on my YouTube channel at Daniel the Barbarian. If you enjoy the podcast, I would ask that you leave me a rating and review on iTunes, or leave a like and comment on SoundCloud or YouTube. Also, I'd ask that you share this with your friends, family, and networks. If you are a fan of the podcast and would like to support the Dangerzone, feel free to visit my Patreon page. Link is at the top right of my YouTube page. We are also actively searching for sponsors of the podcast. If you own a business or know someone who does, who needs help with getting the word out about their product or services, get in touch and we will see if the Dangerzone is a good fit for you. Best format for conversation is on my YouTube channel, so feel free to stop by and join the conversation after listening to the podcast audio. Thank you for taking the time to check out my podcast. Until next time.